Today we have some more information about the next piece of Nintendo hardware, the Switch 2 as we're calling it for now, and we may already know what one of the big massive Nintendo Switch 2 launch titles will be. We won't have to speculate or guess any further, we have multiple creditable sources all saying the same things, so let's get right into it.
Lockhart QT.
And since you're already here, maybe consider subscribing. I do post Nintendo and gaming content in general, such as games like Final Fantasy, Mass Effect, Mario, Pokemon, Splatoon, Zelda, etc, etc. So, without further ado, here we go. So these latest details on the Switch sequel, or Switch 2, as we're going to call it for now, come from insiders Nate the Hate and Andy Robinson from Video Game Chronicle, and they do go over and cover technical spec details, software and much more. Here's the roundup on what information was shared by both of them, and I'll be covering these points one by one. Firstly, we have the point that the device will have an 8-inch LCD screen. This was briefly covered in my last video, but we've heard that the next Switch screen will be an LCD screen rather than an OLED. Personally, I'm not too bothered by this, as the decision was most likely made to cut the initial asking price down to make it more affordable for all audiences. And as you can see on screen now, over at Reset Era, they've done a breakdown of this leak and essentially the screen sizes, comparing them essentially side by side, by having the OG Switch in green here and by having the new device in purple for comparison. And as you can see, it's a lot bigger, and both the OG Switch and the newer OLED models are obviously a lot smaller, being in the green. This also means that the Switch 2 will need to be bigger and will have to change its form factor and possibly house a smaller outside bevel, which I'm very much a fan of, because the one thing that I could criticise the most on the original Switch is how big the black bar is around the outside. Next up is the launch title, the make or break for any gaming console. Well, it's apparently a new 3D Mario game, yes, you heard that right, which makes loads of sense when you actually think about it, as we haven't had a game from their team since Mario Odyssey back in 2017, so it would make loads of sense that they're cooking up something new, and especially the main Mario team actually take time to develop in between games, because Mario is Nintendo's biggest franchise. We also heard rumours regarding a new game from the 3D Mario team in development, in which we all assumed that it would release on the Switch either this year or next year, but it turns out that it's their next console instead. 3D Mario is a great choice for a launch title, as it's not only, you know, Mario's the most popular Nintendo franchise, he's the face of Nintendo, and he's really popular with both the hardcore audience as well as the casual audience, as well as the fact that since Mario Odyssey sold really well, it's one of the Switch's biggest selling titles, it makes more sense that Nintendo would launch their next console with a brand new 3D Mario game. Imagine this, if you will, this bit now is actually speculation on my part, but what if we got a new 3D Mario as well as a new Mario Kart launching with the next Switch title, or if we get a 3D Mario at launch and then Mario Kart 9 a couple months later? How amazing would that be? Next up, I'd like to talk about the credibility of this actual leak. Now, the question I see a lot of you asking is, why should you believe these rumours and leaks? Well, both Nate the Hate as well as Andy Robertson from VDC actually have great track records, but on top of that, we've also got different game publications such as Eurogamer and many more coming out reiterating the same points, what they're saying regarding the screen size, storage, backwards compatibility and much more. And Andy Robertson has even come out now stating that all of his several sources and developers are actual developers working on new Nintendo titles with actual real life dev kits. And if you guys don't know, essentially what happens is developers get sent dev kits, the ones that Nintendo trust, and basically tell them, here's a dev kit, we'd like you to make games for our upcoming console. Obviously the dev kits are going to be a bit over-spec'd compared to the actual console that releases, but this is all great news nonetheless. And that they're also all saying the exact same information, which all lines up, again regarding the internal storage space, the fact that the console will be using cartridges, and 3D Mario. Next up is the fact that the device will have a 512GB storage space of it. This is internal storage, that is. This again would be a cost-cutting measure, as remember guys, Nintendo like to market their consoles as cheaper, more affordable, especially for children, than say for example the PS5 or Series X, that will probably be a lot more. Plus the fact that if you guys remember, Nintendo always sort of do cheaper internal storages and like lower internal storages, again, so they can sell the console to more people as a more of an entry point. Next up, we have a late 2024 launch. Basically, they're saying that a late 2024 launch is expected somewhere around September-October time. Now, this isn't a surprise, as Nintendo would not only sell lots of units, but the fact that it would also be more able to cash in the holiday sales, which would happen in November and December and January to make more money. Partner this in with the fact that it may launch with a 3D Mario, and then may have, for example, again I'm just making up games here, perhaps a new Kirby, maybe a new Pokemon title, maybe a new Mario Kart, and again Nintendo can make lots and lots of money here, similar to how in 2017 the Switch sold loads in the holidays. And finally, we've all been informed that the device will also use a new cartridge format. This will also supposedly allow the console to be backwards compatible with Switch titles. Personally, I'd love for the next Nintendo console to be backwards compatible, as I own a lot of Switch titles and would love to have the option to play them on my Switch too, but again, Nintendo are really well known for just not doing backwards compatibility with certain consoles. It's really weird. Like, for example, the Wii U could play Wii games, the Wii could play GameCube games, the DS could play GBA games, but again, the Switch isn't really backwards compatible. It's more, you know, like Nintendo Switch Online and certain titles being resold and repackaged for a higher price. But again, we'll have to wait and see on Nintendo's plans with this, as with Nintendo Switch Online, you know, you have to factor that in, the fact that they could bundle GameCube games in with that service. So again, we'll have to wait and see, but they could also bundle Switch games in with the service, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway everyone, what do you think about the next Switch console? Do you think it will be called the Switch 2? What do you think it will have? What do you guys think about the internal storage space? Are you angry about it using an LCD screen rather than an OLED? What do you think about it launching with a 3D Mario, and much, much more? Thank you so much for watching, and for more news on the next Switch console, stay glued to the channel as I'll be making more videos on it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.